Hello, this is Geeta Shoran, and today we will talk about Viktor Shklovsky, who is connected with formalism. Formalism is a term which is connected with new criticism, and there is a little difference between formalism and new criticism. In part 9 I talked about this difference, that what is the difference between formalism and new criticism. So today we will talk about the Russian writer Viktor Shklovsky. Viktor Shklovsky was a Russian and Soviet literary theorist, critic, writer, pamphleteer. He is one of the major figures associated with Russian formalism. Victor was from Russia, and it was the question which was asked in net exam, that from where Viktor Shklovsky belongs. So he belongs to Russia. He wrote a work, an essay, Art as a Technique. And Art as a Technique is an essay which was taken from a book named Theory and Prose. Art as a Technique was further divided in two parts, and in this work he has given a term, defamiliarization, which is very important from net point of view. So I have written some points about this work which is very important for net point of view. So the first point is defamiliarization. It can be asked in net exam. It is very important from net point of view. And what is defamiliarization? Here we get to know. Defamiliarization, experience of understanding an object, is important. The object is not so important. In this term, Shklovsky says that experience of understanding any object is important. It is not important to know the object. It is important to perceive the meaning of object. So it is the main idea of defamiliarization. Then when we get to know any object, it is not enough for us. It is necessary to perceive the deep meaning of the object. It is important for us. The second point here is poetic imagery. In this point, he says that what is poetic imagery? It means of creating strongest impression. Poetry is a technique to give a strong impression in the mind of reader. When a reader read any poem, he has to go deep into the poem. Only then he can understand, he can perceive the idea behind the text. So it is important to go deep into the poem, into the text. Poetry is a technique to create a new or strong impression about a thing or a situation. It gives a strong impression on the mind of reader. The third point is familiar and habitual. He says that it is not important to know about the familiar thing. It is important to go for the defamiliar things which we don't know. It is necessary to know those things which is defamiliar. So in this, he says that when we do one activity again and again, it becomes our habit, and it habit can deteriorate our life and life activities. So he thinks that as perception becomes habitual, it becomes automatic. Everything that we see around us gradually become a part of our habit, and then we become so habitual to them that we don't even notice them. So it is automatic process. We don't need to do the hard work for this. It habit becomes automatically. So then the another point here is poetic and ordinary language. He says that poetic language is very difficult. Poetic language is very deep and very figurative, very creative. It is necessary for the poet to be creative when he writes any poem, and it is important for the reader to go deep into the text when he reads the poem. For the reader, it is important to know the real meaning of the text. When he will not go into the deep, he cannot understand the meaning of the text. What is the ordinary language? Ordinary language is used in prose work. It is very direct. It is not necessary for the reader to go deep into the text. It is very easy to understand. So prose is very easy. Poetic language is very creative, and poetic language, he gives preference to poetic language. Then the next point is purpose of art. What is purpose of art according to Shklovsky? Purpose of art is to impart the sensation of things as they are perceived, not as they are known. He says that what is the purpose of art is that when we perceive the deep meaning of the text with our sensations, with our five senses, then only we can understand the thing. And it is not a good thing to only to know the thing, but it is necessary to perceive the thing by five senses. Then the another point is difference between language of prose and poetry. What is the difference between the two terms, prose and poetry? He says that there is a difference between two things, language of poetry and that of prose. There is a difference between the language. If we compare between language of poetry and prose, then we find that the language of prose is more direct and economical, and the language of poetry is very difficult and creative. So these are the things which was given by Shklovsky in this work, and defamiliarization is the very important term which is very necessary for the net aspirants to get to know. So thank you for today. We will talk about the next writer tomorrow. So thank you very much.